the more challenging aspects of the transformation that a lot of companies are contemplating today while they're looking at digital transformation and they're looking at global supply chains and they're looking at things that are really requiring them to behave in a very different way than they have historically is how do we master all the levers of change that we need to be pulling in order to make something actually work. And in this talk, what I'll focus on is what I call the Kite model for organizational alignment. And the reason I love to use the kite as a metaphor is, you can't force a kite to fly. You can yell at it, you can give it MBOs, you can put funding behind it, but it's got to be built right, and then it's got to be launched into the right kind of context, and then you have to control it appropriately. And so what we'll talk about in this discussion is the elements that go into making up a kite that can fly in organizational terms. So first, you begin with your own agenda. And I mean that incredibly literally. How are people spending their time? Because that's going to determine everything else about how this kite is going to fly. Then we look at norms, which are the cultural assumptions that underlie what's important here and why we need to be paying attention to these things. We look at news, which is information flows. Getting information, figuring out what it means, figuring out how to share it. At the center of the kite, you have structure, that's your people. The next thing is you have your resource allocations, who gets budget, who doesn't, who gets rewarded, who doesn't. And then, of course, we have the tail of the kite, which is your organization's history. And what's interesting about that is, a kite with no tail doesn't have any control. It goes all over the place. But a kite whose tail is too big and heavy is never going to get off the ground. Lastly, we have the critical role of executive symbolism. And when I talk about symbolism, what I'm talking about is the meaning your actions are given by people who observe them. And a lot of times executives are thunderingly unaware of the meaning people are making of their behavior. So we try to really shine a light on that. So what this whole talk is designed to help you combat is this tendency executives have to focus on one thing. You'll hear people saying, if we can just get the structure, the balls and the lines and the arrows pointing in the right direction, that's all going to be perfect. Or other people, it's all about incentives, right? Or other people, if I could just get the communication right, this would all fall into place. And they're right, but they're incomplete. It's all those things working together. So we'll demystify that in this discussion.